Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the fifth and final session in our 5x22 mini series. My name is Christy, and I'm on the team here at Generis. And today's session this morning is led by Jess Bealer. She is the Director of Family Ministry Services on Generis's Effective Ministry team. And Jess has over 20 years of experience in family ministry and has overseen the launch of 22 church locations. It's a little nuts. I'm sure it's kept you busy. And that's also included the expansion of Elevation. It's an early morning today. And in this time, she's helped leaders not just build a better ministry, but also, super important, how to connect their local community. So today, she's going to be sharing some insights with us, and that's under the category of 3 social media strategies that will help your church reach your local community in this coming year. So I do want to point out, we may have a few minutes at the end of the session. Jess loves the Q&A, so we want to build that in. So throughout the session, if you have questions, drop those into that Q&A feature, because we want to go ahead and get to those at the end. So Jess, I'm going to go ahead and let you get started here.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks you guys for tuning in. I am super excited about our topic because I'm very passionate about it. You may be thinking, how does family ministry and social media relate? Not that you wouldn't put your family ministry on social media, but that doesn't seem like one would make me an expert in the other. But I have had to hone my skills, and honestly, I feel like I'm still learning. I don't think that you ever fully learn social media because it is changing every day, every moment, really. But I did have the opportunity, like Christy had mentioned, to launch 22 campuses. And so through that, we really had our main growth engine was designed to be our family ministry. Like, we knew if we could reach the families in the communities that we were going, that we could reach the community at large. But we also know that social media plays a really important part in the lives of families. And so we really had to kind of hone in our skills and learn how to use our social media more effectively. And so this is one area when I'm coaching and when I'm consulting that I will help churches to evaluate and to look at. And really, these are great for the different ministry areas. If you have multiple accounts, or if you just have one single church account on each platform, you can use these same practical, because I live in the practical, but these same practical applications, even just for your single church. So it's not that these are necessarily geared towards family ministry. These are just best practices for social media. The idea would be to attract your local community, right? Like, that's to attract and serve your local community. I feel like that, and this is going to lead us to point number 1. I feel like that if you were to ask most ministry leaders across the globe, like, is your ministry internally focused or externally focused? They would say, of course it's externally focused. We want to reach the world, right? We want to make a difference in our community. Pastor Stephen used to say that he wanted to make such a difference in the lives of those in our community that if Elevation ever shut its doors, that the city of Charlotte would cry at its funeral. I remember him saying that and thinking, yes, I want to make such a difference, and that literally they would mourn if there ever came a day that we had to shut our doors because we had made such a difference in the community. You may think that social media doesn't make a difference, and I think today in culture and in society, a lot of times social media can do more harm than it can good. But just like anything else, God can take what the devil meant for harm and make it good, right? And so that's what I hope to do today, is I hope to just inspire you, to give you some really practical application with these 3 strategies that would help you to serve your local community, to attract your local community, and to make a difference in your local community. So let's just jump right in. That first one is an externally focused social media strategy instead of an internally focused social media strategy. So we need to be externally focused. Now, you may say, of course we are. Everything that we put out is designed to help the community. But if you're only talking about what's going on in your church, that's still internally focused, because most people who are not attenders of your church, they're not regular attendees, most of them would probably not find your social media account attractive or inspiring, because they're like, well, I don't go there. I wasn't there for that sermon. But I would say that probably 90+% of social media accounts for churches, that they focus on quotes from the pastor, events that are coming up. So some information that is coming up, maybe an inspirational quote, and that's great. Inspirational quotes are great. But for the majority of our posts, it's very internally focused. Now, I want to say, when it comes to how do we attract, the goal would always be to stop the scroll. Like that's the goal. Like, and if you think about it, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on Reels, whatever it may be, you're scrolling. And a great social media strategy is one that stops the scroll. Well, how do we stop the scroll? We stop the scroll by telling narratives, by telling stories. We want to get a glimpse into the lives of those people around us. For whatever reason, we are inspired by other people. We are curious about other people around us. And so if we really truly want to be externally focused, then we're going to have to tell the stories that live in our community, the stories of the lives of the people that live in our community. And so I would just say that we really need to stop doing as many of these, like, hey, here's a quote from our pastor this past week. It was so inspirational, to telling a story about a person in a community that maybe relates to something that the pastor said, because they will stop on that story. They will stop on a face. It's crazy how we all make fun of selfies, right? Like we walk around, and I have 4 teenagers, including one teenage daughter, and it is nothing for her. We're in the parking lot, and I'm chatting with somebody, and it is nothing for her to pull her phone out and do a little dance or just shoot a selfie. And like, she's not even remotely embarrassed about it. But I think a lot of adults are like, oh my gosh, selfies. Like, I'm so done with the selfies. Can you stop taking pictures and putting a million filters on yourself? But here's the thing, faces actually stop the scroll. Why is that? Well, it's just because what I just said, like, we're curious about the lives of other people. And so we are scrolling along, we see a face, and we stop for just a second. And if it interests us, we may click down and look at the caption there, or we may just keep going. But for a moment, it captures our attention. Quotes and content and text do not capture attention. Narratives is how we capture attention. So when we're talking about being externally focused, we've got to start with the idea this has to be a narrative. It has to be a story that we are telling. And it really needs to be a story that is happening outside of the walls of the church. It really needs to be a story or stories from the lives of those in the community. Maybe they go to your church, maybe they don't. But either way, to stop the scroll, to gain attraction, to serve our local community, we need to tell inspiring stories that will make them feel good, stories that will hopefully bring them closer to Jesus. So externally focused, not internally focused. And how do we do that? We stop the scroll by telling narratives. Just remember, when it comes to this, we just want to understand that we are not the central point, the central focus of any person's life. There may be people that have a ministry within our church that is very fulfilling and very impactful. But for us to assume that we're going to put a quote on social media and everyone on the planet is going to stop and tune in, we're definitely not the central focus here. God is, and what God is doing is, and his work is. And so let's just focus more on externally what is happening and telling the stories of those around us. All right, number 2, 80% value add, 20% marketing or promotion. That's the next strategy. We want to add value to the lives of those in our community. And hopefully, while adding value, we actually begin to make a difference and they begin to tune in more. And so we do attract our local community. Social media is one of the things that when people are looking for a church, they will almost always go to your website and then go check you out on Instagram or maybe your Facebook page. But most of the time it's Instagram. They would just want to see what it is that I can expect. And if they look and all they see is pictures of your building, a couple pictures of kids that are in the church worshiping, which is great. I think we should always put those on there. But if that's all they see is just an internally focus, that's not really adding any value to the community. They may or may not decide to come and visit your church based on what they're seeing. So we want to always put 80% value add. That's our goal. Right now in most churches' social media account, it's the reverse. It's 80% promotion. We talk about our services. We talk about our service times. We talk about our pastor's sermon. We talk about quotes from the pastor. We talk about events that are coming up, all that kind of stuff. And it is just promotion, promotion, promotion. The goal for most people is like, how can we get all the information out there so that people will come to the church? But I would just challenge that, because I think that if they really wanted to come, they would come to your website, they would check it out, and then they would make it a priority to be there. I would say that if we could just add value to their lives, that we would gain their attention and we would attract them, and then they might actually come and check us out for our social media or because of our social media, not necessarily as a byproduct, something that they were already planning on coming, they're going to come and check us out. So how do we do that? Oh, I also want to just, this is not my resource. but this is where I learned there is a course that you can take. And when I say course, I'm saying really lightly course. But I'm a huge John Miller fan. And I learned a lot about 80% value add, 20% marketing or promotion from something that he offers called socialmediamadesimple.com, socialmediamadesimple.com. And you can all go there. They're like 4 or 5, like 2 or 3 minute videos, and it explains this. And it's incredibly fascinating. The person who he partnered with was the former CEO of Twitter, and she knows a lot. She's very, very smart. And so anyways, what I'm talking about here, this 80% value add, 20% marketing, it actually came from just me learning. Like I told you, like we're all learning because it's social media, socialmediamadesimple.com. But how do you take that? Because he puts it in through the lens of like business. So how do you take that and put it through the lens of ministry or through the lens of church? And so here, I just want to give you, if we're adding value, how do we do that? That's the goal. If we want to add value, how do we go about do that? So I just kind of like made a list of things that you could do to add value, not only to those that are attending, but maybe to those in the community. So they would follow your social media account because you're adding value to their life before they ever came to your church. So here's a couple of things. What about community events? You've got a fair coming to town. My daughter just competed in like the equivalent of the fairest of the fair. And there was no information hardly anywhere on the internet that I could find about it. I had to actually go and like dig down into the website of the fair to find out when they opened and how much ticket prices were going to be and all that kind of stuff. What if your church just was like, hey, here's some information. The local fair is in town. Take your family and go and enjoy a night out. Make some memories. Here's the times and the ticket prices. Just like it's a community event, right? Maybe if you've got a festival, an apple festival or a pumpkin festival or whatever, make sure that you're putting that out there because that's of interest to people in your community. And if you're adding value, you will speak to their interests. So community events, maybe recognition of individuals or entities that have experienced significant accomplishments. What do I mean by this? Your local elementary school teacher of the year. You definitely need to call them out. Whether or not they actually go to your church doesn't really matter. We need to call them out and say, hey, this person just got teacher of the year. We love our teachers. We are so grateful for our teachers. And, congratulations. And we're celebrating you today as a church, whatever it may be. Maybe a local firefighter, like save somebody, call them out. Maybe your high school team wins the state championship. Congratulate them. Like, if you will just celebrate what's happening in your community, not only will it better your community, it will also serve and attract those in your community to pay attention to what it is that you're saying. Remember, we're trying to add value here. Maybe important public notices. I follow all of my church's social media accounts. And if I'm driving down the road and they put something out there, hey, just want to let you know that 400 is shut down between exit 13 and 14. Oh my gosh, you just saved me about 45 minutes of traffic. I would really appreciate that. So even public notices like that, or maybe early voting happens, something like that. And you're like, hey, early voting, we don't have to get political, but you can just tell them, hey, early voting opens today, make sure that you go and check it out or whatever. But whatever it may be, you can definitely talk about important public notices or information, things that they would know. Another one would be attendee stories. So the stories of the lives of those who come to your church. And again, put a face out there. And then don't just be like, hey, this person serves in our ministry. No, be like, this person is from Michigan and they love cheese and they have a dog named, I don't know, Buck or whatever it may be. Like, make sure that you tell the stories of the attendees' lives before you kind of like go into whatever it is that you're wanting to celebrate in their lives, because people will relate to that. Oh, I had a dog named Buck when I was like 8 years old. That's so funny. How ironic, whatever it may be. But if they can relate to those people, or I'm from Michigan, they may begin to see themselves as, oh, I can make a difference. I could do something like this person did. I might go check out that church because I relate to that person. So make sure that you're telling the lives and stories. One of the things that you can do for family ministry in this regard is to celebrate all the kids in your ministry when anything great happens in their lives. And you can't do this enough. It feels like maybe you're opening a can of worms, but it still works. So like, say a child in your ministry wins the spelling bee at their local elementary school, and you celebrate. You put a picture of them. You get a picture from their mom. Obviously, you'd have to get permission from mom and dad to put it on social media, but you get a picture of them winning the spelling bee, and then you put it out there and you tag mom and dad in it and be like, we are so happy for Vanessa who just won the spelling bee. Congratulations. We're so proud of you. And then mom and dad are going to share it, and then grandpa grandparents are going to share it. And then before you know it, you've got thousands of people who don't come to your church checking it out because you're telling, again, a narrative, a story, an accomplishment of someone in your local community. So make sure that you're telling the lives of the attendees, especially your volunteers. And again, one of the things, we can talk about volunteerism all day. I love it. But one of the things that we need to do is, even in our social media, we need to reflect the priority of volunteerism, both inside the church and outside the church. So outreach as well. But don't just say, hey, such and such showed up today and we're so grateful for them. They served 4 hours at the local homeless shelter. No. Tell the story of that person. This person served at the local homeless shelter because they used to be homeless, and because this means a lot to them, and because they realized that somebody gave back to them and now they're passing it along. That's a story that will stop the scroll. So 80% value add, 20% marketing or promotion. That's number 2. And I would just challenge you really practically to really be honest and transparent. Look at your social media accounts, check them out and say, am I really talking about all the things that are going on inside the church, or are we focused outside the church? And am I adding value, or am I just putting out content to be putting out content? Because both of those things are incredibly important. So that's number 1 and number 2. Number 3, have a plan and execute it. This is one of the things that I feel like churches fail at the most is we're like, oh my gosh, I haven't posted anything on social media in the last couple of days. I need to get on there. And then we post like 5 things in 2 days. And then a week creeps by and we haven't done anything again. We're really bad at this with those extra accounts, like the children's ministry account, the student ministry account, the small groups account. Like, we're really bad at that. But even churches' main account a lot of times won't have consistent, frequent content. They publish, erratically, maybe a lot of posts and then no posts at all. So you need just to have a plan. And when I say have a plan, what exactly do I mean? I'm saying, what are your current numbers? Where do you want them to be? So you have to understand, okay, here are our numbers on all our different platforms. Here's where we would like to be with our numbers. Let's make a plan to do this. And let's use strategy number 1 and 2. Let's focus externally. Let's add value to the lives of our community, people with the lives in our community. And let's make a plan. So look at your current numbers, make a goal, and then make a plan to get there. You also need to understand that every platform on social media needs to be used differently. Twitter is obviously much smaller. You don't have to use pictures on Twitter. You can, but you don't really have to. And honestly, the pictures a lot of times aren't necessarily looked at. One thing that we are finding out that is looked like is people will take a picture of a tweet and put it on Instagram, or they'll take a screenshot of an Instagram and put it on Twitter. And those actually do work, which is really quite odd to stop the scroll. But that is interesting. But you need to know what platforms, like what content and how to present that content is different on every platform. On Facebook, you can go into a lot more details, but you never want to go into so many details that they have to click the read more button. Because if they're clicking read more, they're probably not going to do that, and they're going to miss the most important detail, which most of us save for last. So put everything at the beginning and keep it short, but understand the audience that you are appealing to. Facebook is like moms who are my age. I mean, there's some other people on there, grandmas and all that kind of stuff too, but you're not going to reach the 20-something-year-olds. You're not going to reach those really young millennials on Facebook. Like, they're not going to do that. You need to understand that Instagram and Reels is that. If we're talking about Gen Z, then you need to understand that they are going to be on TikTok and on Snapchat. You just need to understand the platforms themselves. So do a little bit of research and make your plan. And then you also need to have a scope and kind of a sequence and a cycle here. So how frequently will you post on each platform? Different, Facebook, you can actually get away with posting like once a day. But on Instagram, it just, the scroll is so fast that if you don't post, and even the algorithms, if you don't post multiple times a day, people will miss your posts. So you need to understand what you're going to talk about. So you need to make a plan. These are all the things that we're going to talk about. Community events. We're going to talk about the lives of those attendees. We're going to do some public information. We are going to talk about our values as a church. That's fine. You can have it. Remember that 20% promotion marketing. That's fine. You can do that too. But you need to have a plan, and you need to kind of decide how frequently that you're going to talk to it, so that you talk about each of these subjects so that you can execute that plan. And then finally, I would just say to use some kind of scheduling platform or software like a Hootsuite or something like like that, so that it doesn't fall through the cracks, because we all get busy in ministry, right? The urgent replaces the important. Social media is important. We would all recognize that, but fires come up in ministry and suddenly, the urgent replaces the important and social media gets pushed to the background. And when we don't have a plan and when it's not scheduled, we don't achieve what we want to achieve, which is to attract our local community. So that's it. In review: externally focused, not internally focused, 80% value add, 20% promotion and marketing, and then have a plan and execute that plan. I do have a sample of a family ministry plan. And if you would like that, you can always email me, jessica.bealer@generis.com. Christy has put it in the chat there, but I don't mind to send you that. Also, you can at least see kind of like the scope and sequence and the plan that we had for our family ministry at Elevation. So you can always email me and I'll send that to you if you so desire. So that's it for me. Those are the 3 social media strategies to attract and hopefully serve your local community. If we have any questions, if anybody's put any in there, then we can definitely take those.
Hey, Jess. Okay, so I do want to say I went ahead, all of those, the 3 strategy points you noted, they're in the chat. So everyone can go ahead and copy and paste those, but I know you had so many more sub points under that. And your way to contact you is in the chat. So I know we are at time now, but if anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and drop them in the chat. And also, so as people, if anyone has questions in doing that, I'll just let you know. After today's workshop, you'll receive an email with how to connect with Jessica and the Story Brand workshop that you noted. I'm going to go ahead and link that as well. And you can connect with her there directly. You can schedule some time with her. And just because I'm asking, and I'm like, if I was still in a church role, I would be dropping this in the chat. If someone wants maybe some insight for you to look at their social media, can they connect with you? How could we go about that? Because I want you to look at my social media personally.
For sure. Yeah. You can just reach out to me, shoot me an email. I don't mind to look over it and just kind of tell you what I see. And there's more than obviously something that we could discuss in 22 minutes. I tried to give you a big overview, but if you do want to go a little deeper and kind of need help executing that plan, just shoot me an email and I don't mind to do that at all.
Okay, perfect. And then, like I said, you had so many great sub bullets under that. Would you also be able to share that that note or Google Doc? I'm pretty sure you're looking at a Google Doc if someone wanted to get that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat. Oh, wait, we do have one here. How can we use TikTok or Snapchat for promoting value and marketing? And I'm gonna, that's all you. You are so good. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just tell you, TikTok and Snapchat are probably not my greatest forte. I am familiar with them, and there is so much marketing right now on both of them. I mean, there's great worship music on there. I have a friend who just literally released an album this week, and her and I were talking about her TikTok strategy, and I was like, this is fascinating to me. But you definitely can. I will say that one of the problems with churches and TikTok and Snapchat is that they're not super comfortable with it. So they may start an account and then maybe put a few posts out there. That's not going to make a splash. So you have to fully sell out. And honestly, I would get a Gen Zer. Like that's what you need. You need someone who is so good at it and posts like 20 times a day on their personal account. And then, somebody that you would trust and that you could then bring it in and talk about what you would like to do. But you absolutely can use it for marketing, especially, I wouldn't market to middle-aged adults. Like if your target audience is a 35-year-old to 45-year-old moms and dads, they're not on TikTok and Snapchat. So like, that's not, but if you're trying to target and promote your student ministry, then for sure you need to be on there. The great thing too about TikTok, which I'm sure that you've probably seen this with TikTok and Snapchat, is you can record on one and now put it onto Reels. So like Reels and TikTok, you'll be watching a Reel and you can actually tell it's from TikTok because the little TikTok logo is down in the bottom. So once you create the content, you can actually put it on Reels and TikTok. Snapchat is different. But again, if you're looking to promote to students, then you have to be on those too. The other thing that we've been doing with just with generosity is in our student ministry with the alignment for generosity initiatives. in our student ministry, we've been having kind of like a TikTok challenge, like who can do the best one. And students will totally get on that and like run with it. And it is so much fun to watch students use TikTok to talk about being generous, because I don't think that was probably the intention of it from the founders, but it's a pretty incredible strategy. So there's so much that you can do, but I would just say, if you're not comfortable with it, you're not fully familiar with it, then you need to find somebody who is. It's probably going to be someone who is like 22, 24 and under, and then have them take over and run the strategy. And you just inspect what you expect to make sure that you're always tuning in, that it doesn't get off, off base or anything. But that's probably the way that I would approach that.
That's super great. So I think I just heard you say, first of all, know your audience. Who are you reaching? Engage in the platform where your audience lives and make a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, it's not going to work out too well. So super great. Also, I love that you just said you need to tap to a Gen Zer. And I'm like, oh, that just passed the millennial over now.
So true though. Like I'm technically the first year of millennial. And so I have so many millennial friends and they're still like, can you explain to me about TikTok? Like it's just not, Gen Zers are where it's at. Or you could just talk to my 14-year-old daughter and she'd tell you how to do
it. So any other last questions? And thank you, Burmy, for sending that in. She's going to go ahead and tap her Gen Zers. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. Thank you so much for a great session. This is a great punctuation to the entire series. If you missed any of our sessions from this series, in the next couple of weeks, you'll receive information to your inbox on how you can rewatch this session and any of the other ones. But thank you so much, everyone who's joined us throughout. And thanks, Jess, for, again, wrapping us up. This was really great.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Everyone have a great day.